Hey guys, welcome to the College Alternative Podcast. So, in today's episode, the topic is going to be farriers. And we're going to be talking with Cole Kynaston today about his time as a farrier. And he's going to be covering topics such as competition. Is there a lot? Is there not? What the salary is, and also how to get in, how to source your equipment, how to learn, etc. So, enjoy the show, guys.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. I just been living online, my city don't show me no love and that's fine. Fuck local radio stations, I got more plays than all of these rappers combined. I'm going again, I've been going in, I'm fed up with so many things. I gotta just let it all out, I'm talking about the shit they've been talking about. Telling me I should do this, telling me I should do that. Telling me things about rap. Talking the truth and that stab in my back, they will knock me off track. No, too many things have been building, been hard to deal with, I just been drinking.
Hello and welcome to the College Alternative Podcast. I'm really excited today. I've got Cole Kynaston on, and Cole has done quite a lot with his life, and we're going to be focusing on one aspect of his life here. But he has been a fireman. He's been in law enforcement. He has been a farrier, and he also is a business owner of Shadow Valley Weapon Systems, where he does a ton of work. How are you doing, Cole?
Pretty good.
Now, this episode isn't going to be coming out for a couple weeks here, but you did just get back from SHOT Show. How was it?
Oh, it was great. It's always good to make those connections and meet new people in the industry and, kind of see all the new gun stuff that's coming out and all the innovations. So, and there's always a few good parties to go to, too, with some good food. So it worked out well.
So you're talking connections here. And how... you've been doing your business here at Shadow Valley. This was for Shadow Valley Weapons. Is it just as important to make these connections nowadays as it was initially starting out?
I think it gets more important, I mean, when you're just getting rolling, there's a lot of things to worry about. But as soon as you have, let me back up. We manufacture our own patented product. And so, once you're getting things rolling, there's a lot going on. But then when it comes time to sell your product, that's all contacts, who you know and who can help push your product for you. So yeah, kind of important.
Nice. So it's well worth investing your time to just get out there into that community, especially if you want to get into that. Yeah, make those connections.
Well, and who doesn't want to go to Vegas for a couple days anyways?
Yeah, that's a good excuse. Especially with guys like that.
That's right.
You might not remember everything, unfortunately, but nice. So we're gonna mainly be concentrating today on a farrier, and so maybe kind of get into your background initially, and then kind of get into what is a farrier for those people that don't know.
Sure. So my background as far as farrier work is related, I grew up around horses and did a little bit of rodeo and stuff. Decided I wasn't tough enough to be a rough stock guy after I got stepped on enough times and whatnot. So just grew up around horses, and at a pretty young age I made a deal with my father that he would pay for all my shoeing equipment and get me an apprenticeship. And I did that, and then I became the family farrier for life, and so did work there, but it allowed me to also make my own little business as a farrier and shoe professionally, and actually make some pretty good money.
It's kind of funny how your parents kind of
tricked me into that.
Yeah, try this out.
Yeah, I had to move out of state to break that contract, but anyways, they got a lot of good farrier work out of it for quite a few years, so you bet.
Nice.
They won there.
So why do horses need horseshoes? Why can't they just walk around? I mean, they have hooves, right? So why do they need horseshoes?
Well, I mean, we have feet, but we still like to protect them, and though a horse's hoof is a lot more durable, and you'll see Mustangs out in the field, or in the wild that don't have shoes. For one, that breed has evolved to be a pretty hardy horse, and a lot of your bred and bred horses that, you know, like a quarter horse or whatnot, their hooves actually can have some tender spots on them. So having that protection really helps them. And there's a number of different reasons that you would put shoes on a horse, to include a number of different types of shoes, depending on what type of horse that is and what the horse is being used for. In other words, you're not going to put a pair of aluminum race shoes on a draft horse that you know, has a totally different job. So
Okay.
yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. So various breeds have kind of more sensitive feet than, say, the Mustangs that you see majestically riding over the plains, and, you know.
Yeah, the Mustangs are, I mean, they live in the wild, so it's survival of the fittest, and they've, you know, the wild's taken care of the weak ones, and so those Mustangs have pretty strong hooves and can tolerate a lot of things that a lot of other horses can't have. And then take, for example, some really well-bred Clydesdales or Belgians that are for drafting. I mean, their shoes are ginormous. I mean, they are very large shoes, and so they're going to be a different shoe than you would have on a, say, a performance rodeo horse, a bulldogging or roping horse.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of gets into the next question, which is, you know, you've got all these different shoes that are out there, and you know, when I think of farrier, I kind of think of, you know, something that you see, you know, in Game of Thrones, or, you know, in the castle where they're doing it, or in the wild, wild west. It's kind of surprising. It shouldn't have surprised me, but it's kind of surprising that farriers, A, are still around, and B, that modern society really hasn't come up with, you know, various sizes of horseshoes that you can just sort of slap on with glue, or, you know, some alternative solutions to a farrier. So why are farriers still around?
Well, I mean, as long as you have people on a horse, they're going to need to be shoeing horses. So, you know, we have cars, but people still ride bikes, and horses outside of the Amish community are a luxury, but it's still pretty common. You know, the equine industry is actually huge. So whether it's for rodeo, there are certain jobs that require a horse. Ranching, a lot of cattle industry requires a good horse, whether it's for ranching or cutting, you know, separating the cattle, or even patrol work in a law enforcement setting. There's a number of agencies, from crowd control to patrolling the Arizona border and southwest border. There's a lot of different jobs that are really, you know, you can do on a modern piece of equipment, but sometimes nature just still provides the best route. So there's a professional setting, and there's a sports and a recreational setting. A lot of people have horses, and they'll need to be shod.
So the main thing with the farrier is you're essentially taking a piece of, well, metal horseshoe that's kind of shaped, and you're custom fitting that to the horse. Why do they need a custom fit?
Well, you know, there's different size shoes. When we go into the shoe store, we don't just put on whatever. We have our size, and horses' hooves vary quite a bit. So to actually get that piece of steel and bend it on an anvil, there's some sensitive parts of that horse's hoof that if you nail that shoe to, you could really injure the horse. And so being able to bend that shoe, fit it correctly, is essential to that horse's health.
Yeah, and it almost sounds like you're kind of describing something of almost as maybe an art form to it, I guess.
Yeah,
Trying to, yeah.
Definitely. It's a very skilled trade. There's not a whole lot of farriers out there, and there's a reason for that. It's very, very difficult work, somewhat dangerous, and it takes a lot of skill to be able to stand under a 1,200-pound animal that may not want you under there, and then bend and nail a piece of steel to that animal's hoof. So it's a very challenging occupation, very lucrative occupation, but it does require a lot of practice and some good training as well.
Mm-hmm. So you were saying hard work there. Like, what is the process of shoeing a horse, and why is it such hard work?
Well, first off, you know, you take a grown man who's anywhere from 150 to 220 pounds or whatever. Just that's a rough average, but that's not any wrestling match for a animal that's 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pounds. So essentially, you got to get under that animal. If the horse has shoes on it already, you need to remove those. Those shoes are nailed on there, so there's specialized tools that we use to pry those shoes off. It can be cold. I mean, I grew up in some pretty cold areas where shoeing in the wintertime made it always fun. There was ice and snow, and your hands are cold. But even a dry climate, that horse might not like you under there. So it can kick you, it can pull up, rear up, whatever. And it's always going to be when you're trying to drive that nail through. And so it can be dangerous. And my hands have been cut quite a few times in the process. And so been kicked my share of times. And
yeah, man.
So it's not a job for somebody that's soft-handed and so it takes a bit of strength and whatnot. You hope for the horse that has somebody that works with it quite a bit and that doesn't mind you being under there, but there's always that horse that isn't going to want you under there, and that can be very dangerous, very difficult.
Yeah, so you're talking 1,000-pound horse that can kick pretty darn tootin' hard, or stomp on your foot. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Not a good day. So, since it's such hard work, I'm assuming not a lot of people are really wanting to do the job, which is not a bad thing. I mean, there's going to be more demand for farriers out there, less competition. But you're saying it's kind of dangerous. Are men and women getting into this profession? Have you ever seen women get in here into the profession of a farrier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean, I'll be honest. It's a male dominant trade. I have met a couple female farriers, and they do great work. That's not the question. It requires a lot of strength, and so for whatever reason, that it has been traditionally a very male dominant trade, but there are women that get under there and do it as well.
Mm-hmm. And they can get the work done. And yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nice. So,
Yep.
What does a typical day look like for you being a farrier when you were a farrier? What would it look like? Were you getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or was it what was happening?
Well, that depends. I mean, that's something to consider. Is it summertime, and if I get up early, the nice thing of it is you're your own boss, and so you determine your hours, you block in your appointments, and if you don't want to work whatever day, you don't work. The money's good enough that you don't have to work a whole lot to make a normal wage, and if you're ambitious and your back's good, then you can make quite a bit of money. So a normal day, I usually try and work 3 to 4 days a week, and it depends. If I got to travel 20 minutes in between appointments, that's different than rolling up with a contract with a stable and having 10 horses there to knock out in a day.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that you wanted, would prefer, as a contract with the stable? Okay.
Yeah, those horses are typically maintained a little bit better, so that it makes it easier for you as a farrier, and they're all right there. So,
Yeah.
you're cutting your drive time down, you're cutting your fuel down, and you can just sit there and do one right after the other.
Nice. Okay, so you're rolling up to them, and what's next here? Getting
Yeah,
ready for the
so
day?
you'll roll up, set out your tools, and you'll have a horse brought out to you. It's up to the farrier, but I always prefer my horse to be held instead of tied off. Crawl under there, pull the shoes off if they need the shoes pulled off, or trim if they just need to be trimmed, and then take a set of shoes and fit and nail them on. So it's a little bit longer process than that, but that's it.
Yeah, you make
In
it sound
general.
easy, man. You make it
Yeah.
sound easy.
And it's anything but. But like I said, it's I think the going rate right now for a cold shoe is probably around 80 bucks to, I mean, it goes up from there. Hot shoe usually charge a little bit more because you got fuel to charge but it's really good money, and you don't have to work long hours to bring home a decent paycheck. They are difficult hours, but that's I mean, it essentially just schedule your day and show up and get the job done. Winter time, I'm not going to get up at 5 because it might be cold, and summertime, I'll get up early because shoeing and heat makes it pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that.
So
Okay, so you mentioned you're working only maybe three or 4 days a week when you wanted to, right? Is there enough demand out there to do more if you really wanted to?
yeah,
Is there a lot of competition
I
amongst
mean, it
farriers?
depends on where you're at. If I would imagine, if you live in some big cities, it's going to be limited. But if you live in any sort of rural area or anywhere where there's cattle and agriculture and equine sports, I never had any issues filling my schedule, and I still to this day kind of keep it a secret. I've found better ways to make money, or not better, but different ways to make money. So I don't really put it out there that often because there's always a demand for farrier work.
Hmm. I'm
So
assuming if you went to like a tack and feed shop, if you've got one in your town, just look at the
yeah,
board and see the demand for it
yeah. I
there.
think that's the only time I ever advertised is I just put a flyer up at a feed store, and I pulled it down soon because I couldn't keep up with that kind of demand. So
It's not
yeah,
that's not that bad of a problem to have, though. In
no,
all
it's
honesty.
not. But you're limited to you know, your strength and health and how bad you got beat up that week. If you had a horse that's rotten, then you you might have overbooked yourself. But there's always, in my experience where I've lived, there's always been a really huge demand, and so probably should mention like how you become a farrier. There's a couple of different ways, like over in England and Australia. For you to do farrier work, it's mandatory that you complete a trade school and become certified in that. In the United States, that's not a bad idea, but you kind of have two routes. You can go to school for farrier science, or in my case, I did an apprenticeship. There's pros and cons. My apprenticeship was with one person, so I learned one way to do it. It wasn't until I started kind of working around other farriers I saw some tricks of the trade that I didn't see elsewhere, and made my job a little bit easier. Um, but and also, you're getting a school environment, but you're going to pay for that. So, the more cost-effective way is obviously basically a kind of shadowing a farrier, and having that sort of internship where you're not going to have to borrow money, but you're going to be doing some work for free. And like I said, there's pros and cons. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna shadow one farrier, you're gonna learn one way to do it, and you're not gonna make any money being out there working a lot. So those are the two options: how to become a farrier. And then, I mean, as long as you're in an area where there's a few horses around, you won't have a problem finding work.
So let's talk about the apprenticeship. How did you find a person that would mentor you or teach you how to do this?
Well, the farrier that was coming to shoe our horses as a kid, my father approached him and asked him if he would teach me, and so my father offered to buy my tools and said, I'll buy your tools, but you need to shoe our horses. And after that, you can do as many as you want and have a good job. And it was a great job for as a teenager and young man. That was really good money. I mean, if you do the math, if you're charging 80, 90 bucks a head and you do 5 to 10 a day, you can do okay real quick. So
Yeah, that doesn't, and only working 3 to 4 days a week,
yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I could have worked more, but I made a good chunk of chains, and it's a cash business too. I mean, there's apps out there now like Square that make it easy for you to receive payment by credit card. But when I was doing it, that wasn't an option. So it was either somebody pulls out a checkbook or give me cash, and it's still this day is predominantly a cash business. And yeah, so it's very lucrative, but you
work
not
for
easy
it.
work.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you got off this apprenticeship, did you even have a business plan at all, or did you just kind of get down to work and kind of throw up your flyer around? Did you even have to do anything like that?
I didn't need to have a business plan. As soon as my experience was as soon as I had that trade and basically a little bit of experience, because people invest a lot in their horses. And there is some risk. I mean, anybody that's been shoeing horses that says I haven't lamed a horse or essentially injured a horse, they either haven't been shoeing horses very long or they're lying to you. So there's some risk involved in who you're having, nail that shoe to the horse's hoof, and so but as soon as you work off your reputation, you don't need a business plan. You just block in people, and those people come back to you if you do a good job. So
Okay.
no business plan needed in my experience. I
Nice.
just
No 30-page,
cut it off when I stopped. I felt like working 3 days or had something. I mean, that's
Nice.
that's all I needed to really do.
And so to find these customers, you mentioned putting up a flyer at one point, but you were working a lot off your reputation, right?
Very much.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a lot of word of mouth then.
Yeah, I mean, when as a farrier that you lame a horse, everybody will hear about it. But the one of the times that was the situation with me, it was actually a very expensive horse. It was priced at about $31,000, and I had a contract with the stable, and that horse came up lame. I don't know if it was directly my fault, but I assumed all responsibility for it. I paid for the vet bill. I also didn't charge for the other, I don't know, 7 or 8 horses that I shod that day at that stable. And I made it right. When that horse had some veterinarian care that daily needs, I actually came and took care of that horse's injury. So on a daily basis, on my own time. So I made it right, and that's it's going to happen. Everybody makes mistakes, but it's kind of what you do from there. And yeah, you just like in my firearms business, you ride on your reputation, and very much so as a farrier. Your quality of work and how you take care of their animal is what's going to get those customers to come back to you again and again.
Yeah, and I'm assuming your business didn't collapse after that. You made it right, and
No.
the customer respected you because of that, and you were
Yeah.
able to retain your business.
Yep.
Nice, nice. So talking about equipment here, you mentioned cold shoeing, hot shoeing. I'm assuming there's different equipment for both. What kind of, can you take us through some of the
Yeah.
equipment you need?
So as far as equipment goes, I mean, you're going to start off cold shoeing, having that foundation under you. Most people are cold shoeing anyways. Um, there's there's arguments as to which one's better, this, that, or the other. But as far as the equipment goes, I can show you here a little bit of the equipment that I have. So you'll notice here that yeah, my equipment might be a little old. It doesn't get used very much. But this equipment I purchased in '92, and so it's not a whole lot of, some of these nippers might get worn, but these rasps they're only good for so long. But it's specific tooling. That's one of these investments that you're going to have to, you know, uh, you have to cough up in the beginning. But like I said, these tools actually work pretty good, and they've been around for quite a long time. These are chaps right there. That's your safety right there. Um, but essentially, I would say plan on 500 to $1,000 to get some of that equipment. But I mean, you look at it, that's a block of steel, another block of steel. If you take care of that stuff, they will last quite a long time. And so there's a little bit of startup cost, but not much. I mean, considering most businesses that you might, or trades that you might have to buy tools or whatnot for. If you're going to start a roofing company, an air compressor and a nail gun and hoses and ladders and those, it's not too bad. And if you buy good quality stuff, it'll last a lifetime. Well, other than like the rasp and the knife, those tools do wear, but that's kind of what you need to, invest in and then go from there.
Is the older stuff, the older equipment better than the newer stuff? Kind of like, like cast iron pans, or where they made all that stuff better then than now. Does it really matter, or are they still pushing out really
Yeah,
good
I
equipment?
mean, it's like anything, you get what you pay for.
Okay.
Most of the stuff, I mean, it's such a unique trade that there's not a whole lot of, most of the cheap tools are being produced in bulk, and there's just not a whole lot of farriers. So most of your farrier equipment is quality stuff. You'll notice that in the price, but most of it's really good stuff. I haven't really seen a whole lot of like knockoff cheap tools. So
Nice,
yeah.
nice. Okay, so I'm assuming rates, you were quoting rates before. Is that pretty much stayed steady since you did it, years ago, or is it kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I came in charging like 45 well, actually 40. Well, probably first like couple months I really wanted to get the experience.
Hmm.
So I was actually doing it for $20, which would almost cover my shoes and maybe like, I don't know, a little bit of fuel. I was almost working for free. But that gave me experience, and it also gave me all the horrible horses because, you know, Anybody that's spending good money on a horse doesn't want a $20 shoer, and anybody that doesn't care about their horse wants the $20 shoer. So I learned how to deal with the horrible horses right off the bat. And as I increased my price up to like $45, and this was like in the mid 90s, my clientele got a little bit better, and then then with experience, I was able to bump it up to 80, and pick and choose what I want to
How
work.
long? How long did that take? What like duration of time? Are we talking years, plural, there, or was it a
Yeah,
couple
I
months?
mean, yeah, it was some years.
Okay.
So I probably shoed for $20 for maybe 6 months, and then stayed at 45 for 2-3 years, and then just kind of worked up from there. And it's like anything, any sort of business concept. It's if you have too much work, you tell them no or charge more.
And then fluctuate your rates based upon
Yep.
yeah. Nice. And so this is pretty. It is hard work, but you're getting paid accordingly,
Mhm.
right? And it doesn't seem like too much buy-in in terms of
Right.
equipment cost, and you do have the option of getting an entrepreneur. Um, are there any other hidden costs that people wouldn't really think about with something like this?
Yeah, I mean, you probably want to consider insurance, liability insurance.
Okay.
Um,
To cover the
and-
horse and cover you, or what?
yeah, well, probably health insurance.
Okay.
You can get it severely injured real quick. And that's probably one of the leading reasons that there's not a whole lot of people that do farrier work. I mean, you can get hurt quick. And then, the liability, when you injure a horse, are they going to sue you? Or luckily in my case where I had the issue with that very high dollar horse, they didn't come after me with any legal repercussions. So that's probably the only hidden cost is liability and health insurance. But other than that, I mean, you got to buy shoes, buy nails, and replace your rasps and knives. If you work out of a toolbox, that's great. If you get really fancy, I've seen some really nice trailers that are just set up for farrier work, and they have all the tools on board, and really nice setup, allows them to not have to walk far to get the job done. And so if you made a career out of it, you're gonna have to do some sort of farrier trailer. And so
Okay.
but
And then
not really any hidden costs, I would say.
nice. Okay, well that's not bad at all, man. Okay,
Yeah.
so any other things that people should know about before getting into being a farrier? Like it's saying, it is hard
Yeah.
work, you're working long hours, you're outside, but anything else?
Yeah, I mean, horse in itself is an animal that is entirely different than a dog, or I mean, they're large animals, and there's a lot to know about them. So somebody that is going to decide to be a farrier that doesn't have horse experience to begin with, you're going to have to actually invest some time in learning the animal before you decide to crawl under them. And so those that have riding experience and have been around the animal are going to have the advantage to just jump into learning how to do that work, because anybody that rides a horse is going to know how to pick their hooves and clean their hooves out. And so it's just taking a step beyond that. So that's the thing to consider is what's your horse experience, and then once again, what's the community that you live in. Are you going to have to travel an hour to get to the first horse? If you live in an inner city or whatnot, how much demand is there in downtown LA? But
Maybe versus out west, right?
yeah, which it's there. Actually,
Okay.
one of my good friends lives in LA and has a horse and keeps it at a stable. So there's you'd actually be surprised.
Nice. I would be very surprised. Pretty much downtown LA, and they've got a horse.
Yeah, I mean it's just outside of the city there, and the horse is actually, I believe, kept in Irvine. So
Okay. Nice. Well, Cole, I do appreciate you coming on the show, man. How can people find you? Let's say they want to look you up, maybe look up your Shadow Valley Weapons.
yeah,
How can they find you?
we're pretty easy to find. We like we mentioned, we manufacture gun parts. We specialize in compensators and muzzle devices, and our website is shadowvalleyweapons@yahoo.com. And if you own an AR-15 or any military style weapon, check us out. We make some pretty innovative parts for that weapon, designed for professional military use, but I have that on my personal guns as well. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, and once again, www.shadowvalleyweapons.com.
And you might be coming out with some new stuff here after the SHOT Show experience. Again, networking.
Yeah, we actually started patenting some silencer designs, and as a business grows, sometimes your ideas are bigger than your manufacturing capabilities. So we've been producing muzzle devices, but we'll have a charging handle coming out for the AR-15 that's pretty different than anything else out on the market, and we'll just keep making cool stuff for those black weapons that are all so scary.
Nice. Well, Cole, thanks for coming on, man. I really do appreciate it. Talking about being a farrier and shoeing horses, and it's just, I think it's probably not. If you're out west, you've probably been exposed to it, but it might not be something that you've ever really seen or experienced if you've been in the city or not around that community. So it's really neat and interesting to talk to you about it. So
yeah,
thank you very much for coming on.
Glad to be on the show, and if there's any questions, like I said, I'm easy to get a hold of. We're pretty easy to find in the gun industry. Not so much the equestrian industry anymore, but
yeah, your secret's out now. So
yeah, that's it.
Nice. Well, thanks again, Cole. I appreciate it, man.
All right, thank you. Have a good one now.
All right, you too.
Bye.
So I hope the episode with Cole was informational for you today. We've got plenty of other videos for you, so definitely check those out. Click the subscribe button below, like us, tell your friends. If you have any comments, let us know. If you have any suggestions, ideas for jobs, let us know about that too, and we'll definitely track those down and have a really good with them. So until next time, guys, later.